Are we live?
We're live.
So the product that we're talking about is a thing that we've come up with called myHealthIRL. IRL means in real life, but it pertains to your real life health issues, how you deal with them, how do you get support for them. And one of the things, being an expat, having lived in the States and moving here, I wasn't able to bring my healthcare records with me.
Okay, so that's a big motivator for you.
And so I've had operations in different states and different places, and even moving from state to state, it was impossible. It wasn't financially feasible to move everything with me. And I found that when you try to go to see a doctor, the first thing they ask you is, how are you feeling? Take your temperature, figure out how high you are, check to see if you're overweight, and it's some basic stuff, but they don't look at how much meat you ate last week. They don't ask you how much exercise and what kinds of exercise, and if you're not exercising, why aren't you exercising? Do you have knee joint pain? If you're going in for a rash, they don't ask you anything else. They're going strictly after the illness as opposed to helping the person become healthy. And the reason that they don't do it is because it would take too long. They have a very streamlined process. You get checked in at front, you sit down in front of the doctor, they want you to go through the consultation and come up with a way to cure your sickness.
As fast as possible.
As fast as possible.
Push out something. Yeah.
And as fast as possible, they also have to meet very strict guidelines so that they won't bump into any issues with their insurance provider. So they won't bump into any issues with the AMA or any healthcare legalities, things like that. So
where would an example of where they'd bump into issues with their insurance provider?
Well, it's definitely in the U.S. Like
Yeah.
you don't just get to go to a doctor. You have to make sure your insurance meets the criteria of the doctor. So the doctor may only work under...
with the patient insurance provider.
Right, yeah. So what they'll say is, who are you insured by and how is it? And if it's Medicare, do you also have enough cash in the bank to cover it if Medicare doesn't cover it?
Yeah.
So there's issues that way. If you're coming in from outside the U.S. into the U.S., unless you have lots of insurance and can prove that you have lots of insurance, you're going to have to go to an emergency care facility. They will care for you, but it's not preventative medicine. It's extremely, there must be some sort of acute problem that they have to address. You're bleeding, you're hurting, you're passing out, all of these things.
So everything's for efficiency.
Yeah, so it's either emergency care on one side, where it's a catastrophic failure of some sort, that they need to say, this person is in such dire need that we can't even ask him any questions, let's take him under our care. But then they try to sort it out and figure out that the person doesn't have the means to actually provide funding for whatever illness they have.
Yeah.
Because it's not like here, where at least if you go to a hospital here, there is some sort of government support and some paid type
support
of mechanism.
Over the years is slowly getting worse and worse.
It is, and
that's why we need to build systems now, so that it doesn't get too bad, basically.
Well, we want to give people another source of control. That's really what this is about for me.
Yeah, okay.
I've done online trading. I've looked at how to tailor my health myself with assistance from other people. I've looked at how to train myself in my own industry in computer science and in networking technologies. And there's support structures for that.
It's all self-learning, isn't it?
Well, it's self-learning, but you get support from the industry.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
If you walk into a doctor's office and question or ask how they arrived at that, or how did they, based on the information in front of them, how did they decide on this, you'll get these very cryptic answers that most of them start with, well, I have this many years of experience in this area. But and this has happened to me, but I have a lot of friends, and I've worked in the medical industry as a support person. I ask them a few questions, and all of a sudden the conversation gets a little adversarial.
Yeah.
If I say, can I take a look at which or how they derive these blood tests? Because I work for a pathology group. I don't know it, but I'm just asking the question.
They get a weird defensiveness as well.
The nurses, the doctors, or if you question, I'm not really comfortable with the way that you're talking to me, or the procedures you're saying that I absolutely have to have. I've gone home and I've done a little bit of research. People will say, oh, he's done Dr. Google and, he's got a better way of doing it. It's not that. It's that you are trying to educate yourself about your health. It's your body, it's your health that you're trying to solve a problem around. At least in my situation, I'm trying to solve a problem about myself that I've been analyzing for years. I have a bad knee. I hurt it the first time when I was 12 years old. I've had issues with it. I kind of know what's going on with it.
Yeah.
But when I go to a doctor and say my knee is sore, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Right? And so he's saying you have some pain in your knee and you have some this and that and you're unstable this way. He's trying to evaluate what's going on, but he has no mechanism, no set of tools that says, oh, look at this patient's history in detail, quickly, effectively, that allows him to get a really good picture of my health, not people like me, not things like that.
Yeah.
So with myHealthIRL, we give you a portable healthcare wallet. So what it does is it allows you to put all your tests, scans, and any history that you think is relevant through your social media.
What do you mean through social media?
So a lot of people will take pictures of what they're eating or when they went out to restaurants or when they're drinking.
Yeah.
They can tag it myHealthIRL.
Oh, okay.
And it will be added to their account because they're myHealthIRL.
Time stamped.
Exactly. So now they can they know when and where these activities happen, and they can be running activities. We also want to integrate with things like Fitbit and Samsung's smart devices that allow you to get ancillary information into the account, amount of activity, sleep schedules, things like that. Gives a better pattern. So a doctor can have not only the records, but kind of a little dashboard of your activity levels, right? So that he can see, oh, he's done this, but he's also drinking a lot of that. He's not sleeping very much, but he is taking time away from work to do activities. So he can get a overall picture of your health before he tries to diagnose you.
Yeah.
Right?
So this would be a doctor just online and somehow has access to these medical records?
Right. So what we do is we have this portable healthcare record system that has a way of presenting these records and all the other records and tests associated with it in a secure meeting room that has a certain set of rules.
A secure online meeting room.
Secure online meeting room that has the records available. You can chat with the doctor. You can show that you can pay, because we're talking about doing this with cryptocurrency, and allowing to have a contract between the two as to what the expectations are, what type of reporting you want back, and then as the transaction occurs, there's a
money
commerce
will get escrowed, and say for instance somebody went to the doctor, they got a diagnosis on their knee, and they're like, well, is that really right? And they can go and get 3 or 4 other
exactly.
They can go and put all their records on this universal database that only they get to choose who has access
Correct.
to, and then they can immediately get 3 or 4 more recommendations, or so not recommendations, but reviews of the same results.
Exactly. They're getting second and third opinions.
Second and third opinions.
But it doesn't have to be the doctor.
In one day.
Right. So it doesn't have to be just your doctor. You can also send this simultaneously to your nutritionist, to your acupuncturist, to your homeopathy specialist, whatever it is. You're not limited just to the medical institutions, the Western medical institutions. This is a tool for a picture of your health, not just a tool to accelerate medicine.
Yeah, and so one of the things though, like I know if I go to the hospital and ask for my, records on something, how are you expecting them to put the records into the system? Just taking a photo with a phone?
Right, so far we've been able to put in MRI scans, regular X-ray images, which just can be stored as JPEGs. You get multiple contrasts of the JPEG. And then what you're doing is getting all your reports as text documents scanned in with either your phone. Literally you can say, can I get a picture of that? That's my record. Boom, you're not really interrupting the flow of the doctor.
And it's up to the patient to build the record,
so you start with the record.
Which I think is better anyway, because this is only a certain population of people that would do this anyway.
Exactly.
And that's what we want to focus on first.
It's our, these clients are educated already somewhat about their health, and they're stymied by the way the medical institutions...
They know how to research.
But they, you know how it is, you go and get a scan, the doctor gets a report, but you don't necessarily look at the x-ray. Well, you can ask for the x-ray.
Yeah.
I ask for it every time. Most times I get it for no cost because it saves them filing it. They just sign out, been handed to the patient. The patient is going to bring it to the next doctor.
Yeah.
Right? I can also, beforehand, before I have a procedure or whatever, say, you know what, if I'm going to have a bone fragment taken out of my leg, I can ask for that, the pathology report that goes with that afterwards. I can ask for any blood tests, anything like this can be added to this record, which gives me a timeline of my health.
So on the myHealthIRL, we would teach them that they can actually ask for things and teach them their rights also.
Exactly. So there'll be videos that explain these are the procedures to politely ask for these things. Here's ways of circumventing
so you can
certain
build a
issues.
history of
Exactly. Which is another part. I mean, the first part of this is your personal health care. The second part of it creates patterns of health so that as large groups of people my age, my size, my background, are going through the system, I will be able to compare myself to other people and other procedures they've had. Slightly overweight, pre-diabetic, whatever. And this guy changed his health. This guy took a pill. This guy had a procedure. And then look at how these are rated as to their effectiveness and the time it took to solve whatever problem.
And that would happen just through wizards they would fill out on different things, and slowly over time they'd get more refined, these wizards, and deeper.
That's exactly right. Plus, you'd be voting the doctor's recommendations up and down. Oh, I did this, and this is how I recommend the using their advice, and what gains I got out of it, and what other issues came up. So you create a cross-reference database. One of the aspects of this that we want to introduce is a set of tools from a company called 23andMe. 23andMe allows you to look at your genetic code, and then using another service, one of the services is called Prometheus. It lets you break down your genetic code with all the possibilities,
percentages and things,
for types of ailments you may have, from receding hairline to
bad eyes. An API or something that can easily plug in?
They do, and what they do is you send the 23andMe genetic file to Prometheus, and then they give you an account that you can then link. Well, they have an API that you can connect to it, or simply just make reference links to the certain aspects that you're particularly concerned about in that area of your health.
So that would be the first starting thing that they could do, just to compare themselves against their DNA first. Yeah.
Well, you're looking at your DNA, but then you're also going to need to look at your habits and structures. So that's being developed by your social media. So when you're taking your Facebook pictures and your tweets about where you are and what you are, and you tag them with myHealthIRL, you then add them to your stream, your health stream, and it's telling you and telling the doctor, okay, these things are happening. Here's the propensity to have something bad happen. This guy has a genetic makeup that makes his knees or his bone structure not as good. So there's a thing for osteoporosis. There could be a thing for rheumatoid arthritis listing there. Hey, we should look at his activity types and say and mention something to him.
Yeah.
So it becomes it's a client-focused healthcare procedure, as opposed to a series of medical prescriptions for solutions.
Yeah.
Right? So the other cool thing about it is you can start, and why shouldn't you be able to share your healthcare records with other people that have similar issues? You may have a very specific rare type of cancer.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be hidden away. That should be exposed and said, hey, I have this. Who knows about this? Who else has this? And these groups can then get together and look at the procedures they've each been taking.
And when they get together, they can organise funding, they can do all sorts of things to solve issues. Yeah, that's really powerful.
So now you get groups of people that have, I've got this predicament. I see that these groups get together. There may be more altruistic members of the community that want to support those things. So they can get together and create support groups and find financial support for specific industry solutions. Maybe the medicine is expensive for a specific treatment. maybe the therapies are complicated and they would like some sort of hand-holding to get them through the issues. This community awareness now develops because in the myHealthIRL community, we're all looking out for each other.
And they can all organise their own conference calls and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but the key fact is you need, just like if you were learning more about the stock market, you'd want to show people the history of trades you made and why you thought they were good or bad. And then they can look over your shoulder and go, oh, you know what? If you'd looked at this, you might know that this is going on.
So
you're gaining more information.
Their own records and sharing and
exactly.
It's the same thing.
And you're sharing they're learning by your experience, and you're sharing your experience to better their health.
And that eases the burden on the medical industry as well.
Well, that's the cool thing. So think about how much you have to pay for a complex records mechanism that is secure and keeps everything private, that you can get them to all the doctors that need them. That's a huge amount of overhead in the records in the medical industry in general.
But it's really the
where if you hand the records to the patient in a mechanism that's certified, it's secure, it will have all of the compliances that we need in order to meet a hospital's record care, a support procedures, a record care, like going from the blood test to the scan to the surgeon to the nurses after post-op to pathology. You want to make sure that the records are meeting their criteria for what they need from an official medical standpoint, but you need it to be easily shareable in a social media.
This is something that I would use because at the moment I keep records on a note on my iPhone, but then I change phones and then I lose all those records, you know. There's all these things, but if I had some universal way that I just knew that was always going to be there, and I knew that it was unhackable, like using some blockchain technology or something.
Exactly. So a combination of distributed file system,
yeah.
blockchain technology, and the new IPFS structures around how you manipulate and access those things.
Do you think that would be the end goal using IPFS?
I don't know that IPFS is as developed as we need it yet, but we've created a distributed file system that already, it's not a blockchain technology, but what it does is make sure no continuous file is on no single system. You need multiple systems in place in order to create the subset. We're calling it a data molecule. The data molecule is comprised of a minimum of 3 atoms. An atom is a storage subsystem. So if you can imagine, if you know anything about computer technology, there's a system called RAID disks where you take a redundant array of inexpensive disks. We're doing a redundant array of molecules. And so those molecules have a security component, a file storage component, and a separate identity component. The identity component now fits perfectly with Ethereum and blockchain.
Oh, okay.
So I can create a token.
So you could open it up with a smart contract. Wait a couple of seconds, or wait 10 seconds, or 17 seconds for the maximum time to open up a record, the whole record.
Well, that's why I find a perfect fit with Ethereum with this. This is not an instantaneous purchase type of an agreement.
No.
I need to be saying, I'm ready to have a conversation, create my component in the smart contract, and wait for the other members to start joining in. So I'm reviewing them as they're joining in. This guy has a certain status because he's a doctor from a well-known...
Say that again. Oh, say that part again, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that this is not like going to eBay and saying, I want to buy that TV.
Yeah, it's not an instant purchase.
Right. There's a constant... we don't need that type of instant gratification e-commerce mechanism.
Because this is people's health we're talking about, something different.
Well, it's a different way of... it's a different type of transaction is really what's going on. I need to know a little bit more about you before I push buy. And so I can say, I would like to get you into a contract, so I'm going to close the contract.
What does that mean though? Get the doctor in the contract? Or get
exactly.
Oh, okay.
So because the doctor, we haven't even talked about whether or not a doctor would just come into an environment like this looking for clients.
Yeah.
I'm talking about an environment that would accept that opposite door eventually. But what we're talking is
patient-centered first.
Yeah, what we're talking is a patient-centric tool to monitor their health and engage healthcare professionals in a way that's simpler, for the healthcare the professional to engage the client than currently is what we call the medical industry.
Yeah.
That's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to offload everything but actual medicine from the doctors and offload all of the headaches of trying to deal with the ancillary medical industry when all these people want to do is sit in front of a doctor and ask them questions.
Yeah.
We want to create that environment.
So that somebody could just walk into the doctor's office with their iPad and just show this is what's going on, this is what's going on, and access this.
And we want to make it so simple that the doctor can go, I need the technical details on your blood, and he can still do it the way he normally does it, because you've already had the blood test, and the information is stored here. You've had the X-ray, MRI, PET scan, and the information is stored here. But now, lifestyle is in there. Now nutrition is in there. Now genetics are in there. You're going to be educating the doctor.
Yeah, so
for the first couple of cycles of this use.
And if the doctor wants to, you could even send an email, or like you could say share a record with doctor, and it will send an email to them, and then they'd get a login and look
exactly.
at it
well,
for a period of time.
Yeah,
or something.
The app that we would present would make it so that the doctor would immediately get a wallet, that he would be able to review the records, and as he signed up, he'd get a low respect level because he hasn't been in the community a long time, but he may get a high status level because he's been certified by another one of our systems that goes in, looks up reviews that are already online with him. Most doctors have been online, and doctors in this type of format will have already been online. And you'll go to numbers of forums where doctors will come through and offer up advice. And then say, you may not be in my part of the country, but if you go look up this doctor, he's someone I would recommend. We have that same capability here. And we, again, want to get the doctors focusing on what they're good at, their specialties. And you're going to find doctors that are articulate and understanding and keeping up with technology in these types of forums, because people who are of the old guard that are satisfied with what they're doing in business are still going to be doing that business. This is these are early adopters to this type of technology and early adopters to technology in general.
I can see it would be a lot of IT people and technical people that would use this system.
Or frustrated people that aren't getting past certain things.
So then there's just basically a bunch of portals or ways to put the information time-stamped on this decentralized database.
Exactly.
And then a way for them to call up records just in a timeline format on their computer, and it would just be potentially an Ethereum, unlock it with your Ethereum key or something like that.
Exactly.
Through the old internet. Or
when I was saying the models of the data molecule, we have the Ethereum check-in, check-out payment component.
Yeah, so there'd be a contract there, yep. So
we have the files and storage mechanism. And then we have the meeting rooms. So this is where two Ethereum contracted people would agree to meet in a certain place, and once they've made that agreement and they're there, the data would show up into that
and some
space.
Money is probably escrowed as well.
Right, so this is a series of apps and tools where you're going to remote into this virtualized space. The members will then be able to review the documents that are there. If there are specific documents that need specific tools in order to read them, i.e. a PET scan or an MRI file, the software is available for them.
Yeah.
The doctor doesn't have to learn or have access to a hospital that has specific software. The doctor doesn't need to have an X-ray.
He's just visiting a website.
He's going to an app or visiting a website that has been agreed on by all parties, and the data, which the cool thing in Ethereum, data has intelligence also. So it's doing a third check. This person's agreeing that he's there, this person's agreeing that he's there. The data and the owner agree before the data agrees to show up in the meeting.
Yeah.
So we can put so many more levels of intelligence around this that we're creating a more secure environment than the actual doctor's offices of today.
Yeah.
And they're now, I'm not even going to get into the new AR functionalities, augmented reality things that you could do here in these spaces, training facilities you could put in these spaces. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the simple function of a health wallet and how it can allow people to have these communications.
I think one of the main comments is if a patient goes and gets a diagnosis of some sort, the next thing is I want to have, 3 or 4 other opinions.
Absolutely.
And that would be the biggest selling point of this. That they can instantly go and get 4 or 5 other opinions in that same day online. They can just see all the records, have a quick video chat as well.
And they're in a trusted environment, because this is in Ethereum. Everything has been trusted ahead of time. So I can have 1 of these, 5 of these, 10 of these in a very short amount of time. And not in every one do you need to chat. You just want to present the records, give me your honest review. This is what you've seen the history, you know who I am and what I do. Give me your honest opinion. As soon as you've done that, I agree to pay you.
And if the patient's getting a consistent response back, then he knows it's probably an intelligence response in the first place. If he's getting different opinions left, right, and center.
Well, it's part of that. It's part of one of the those statistical model, the answers to a statistical model. If more than 50% of the people agree with the evaluation, more than likely that is the right evaluation. And in these types of things, this type of medicine, I don't want to insult anybody, but it's kind of an art. You need to have a certain amount of history, a certain amount of technical skill, but you also have to glean what's going on with the person. Well, it's hard to glean from an office interview. If you have the person's history, you get to glean a lot more. You start to subdivide the problem into more accurate diagnoses, the more information you put in front of the doctor. Now, if you're putting more doctors against the diagnoses, this is, becoming factors of exactly. That's exactly the word, group intelligence.
You're crowdsourcing your medical problems.
Exactly. And, a lot, and there's more than enough cases. I've had cases in my own family where we were told that this was so rare that there's only 18 people in the world that have this. And then you go to another doctor and then you hear that 90 people in the world have died from this. Except that these are 2 oncologists that are supposedly tops in their fields giving us completely contradictory information around the statistics. And then when you go and read the statistics and you find the reports that quote those exact numbers, you realize that in both of those they have opposing viewpoints around treatments. So it's hard to get good information. When you finally, in our case, when we finally did find somebody that was answering the questions in the ways that made not only logical sense, but based on actual review of our case. We had already put MRIs online, we had already put scans online, blood tests online, bone marrow pathologies online, then shared them with these other doctors. Then the responses started to make sense because they weren't 5-minute interviews in front of a diagnosis.
So do you think it would be appropriate, or I guess in the contract the patient could specify if you want the next doctor to see the previous doctor's response?
Well, yes, because these are your healthcare records.
So you choose. So with everything you would say which one you want to share with the doctor to do different tests, I guess.
Exactly, and you can have the doctor post anonymously. I want your opinion, but I'm not going to forward your name or your practice on to the next doctor. I just want your opinion. So that this is a private entity that's giving his opinion, and that also lessens the legal aspects of what's going on. Now you can come in with this Hippocratic oath and say, I'm not going to give you my name, but I'm going to do everything I personally can to help your situation.
So then the
and still get paid for it.
Still get paid for it, yeah. So then the doctor, if he's goes and gives an opinion, and say for instance, there's obviously in the contract there will be like a review, like a rating system, maybe 1 out of 10.
Exactly.
On doctor's response or something, or informative response.
Well, it's not.
What would be the rating of?
It's the effectiveness. You will rate a rate. You won't be able to do it in the. You could rate the person's bedside manner. You could say his credentials definitely meet the way he spoke to me. But then over time, you'll be able to add
more
the effectiveness
on that doctor.
Well, the effectiveness of his suggestions. He suggested this pill. I took this pill, and wow, I never had to take another pill again. That it solved the problem. Or I have something chronic, and every time I take the pill, it brings me back to feeling normal, and it does exactly what he says. So now we have the data on the pharmacology as to how the effectiveness of that pharmacology is to that particular patient, to his particular makeup.
So say for instance the patient got, from this anonymous doctor, the patient got a response, but you can't tell, the patient couldn't tell until 2 or 3 weeks later. So there would be a review period where the patient could go and put a response to that.
Yes, just like with eBay, you get a certain amount of time to give a response for the customer service you received during the sale procedure.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going on.
It could be even the doctor sets the response time, and then that tells the patient.
We could make that the reciprocal part of the contract. He's going to want some status and some. And
eventually, once he's got a good reputation, he'll like to come out of the wardrobe and say, "This is actually me."
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be any unveiling necessarily, because the transaction still can be private between the patient and the thing. What we're trying to get is the metadata of the recovery, and saying, here's the pharmacology, here's the procedures I had, here's the results of the change in lifestyle that came recommended, not just from the MD, but from the nutritionist, from the physiotherapist, from the chiropractor, from the, I went and I had a massage because my back was sore, and all of a sudden that was effective for my type of soreness because it was related to an exercise as opposed to randomly showing up as a chronic pain when I didn't do any exercise. I am healthy. Maybe I do have something growing in my spine. Maybe I have something in my liver.
So I think there is a really important part here that the fact that the doctor can remain completely anonymous.
Yes.
Because that's really, and he can work on building a really amazing reputation. That's a really important part of this whole thing, isn't it?
Yes.
I think because that's what doctors are freaking out about, that they're going to give some wrong advice or advice that's,
well, that's what the whole insurance industry is behind them. That's what the HMOs are in the States behind them.
They can just be certified. They know they're going to get their money, and just give their personal opinion. It's beautiful.
Well, they're like a very intelligent, high-tech home care physician, right? So they're and they can get that same sense whether an acute specialist in a very specific type of knee joint surgery, or if they're a GP.
So it could be all keyword that they get pulled up. Keyword.
Exactly. Well, this is, if you want to use that type of, they're basically getting, it wouldn't be Google AdWords, they're getting myHealthIRL health words associated with their procedures.
Yeah.
So their tags are showing up higher, their solutions are showing up higher in other people's solutions. So when their solution is listed as a solution, reciprocal solutions coming from other doctors allow them to have these ideas become an increase in hits along the myHealthIRL health words. This guy said a procedure, this guy said a procedure, those procedures always rated high with the clients and actually showed results.
Yeah, so it's the metadata. Yeah.
Right.
And so the other thing though here is that it actually levels the playing field because everyone, has got a different level of understanding of health. And there's probably some people in, not even in health profession that can actually offer better advice than a lot of doctors. Things like that.
It opens
the play field for anybody to build an amazing helping reputation, basically.
Well, there are times when you need there are times when you need to have a surgeon.
Yeah.
But there are times when you maybe just need to get up and walk away from your desk and drink some more water. Mm. And it's not evident now because we don't have all of this.
Yeah, we don't have the metadata. We don't have the records. We don't have doctors just being able to have freedom of speech and say exactly what they want to say.
Well, imagine if this was your financial health. If you didn't understand how much money you had in your bank account, what your spending habits were, didn't have an accountant you could trust, didn't have a financial advisor, didn't understand what your mortgage was, just when bills came in, you tried to pay them and hope the bank had money in it. That's how we take care of ourselves now. Mm. This gives you a working picture, which I believe is the first part of creating a real solution.
So this could actually make managing your health even cheaper as well at the same time, because you could just go and get the whole bunch of tests, and then you could just come online and get diagnosed with an anonymous doctor, which there might be cheaper doctors there, or because it could be India, it could be anywhere in the world.
We're not limited
There's
geographically.
no
So if you're looking for a specific type of dental care and you want to shop the market, here's an open market for you.
But then
But you have to find people you trust. You have to have the conversations. This gives you the mechanism to have way more conversations than going to your local GP.
And the other thing I like about it is that this doctor might recommend, oh, look, I need more information, go and get this test, and then you just go and get that test, and you just pay for the test.
And there are companies now that will send you to a nurse to have blood drawn, and then they send it to wherever. There are tests where you need to have your respiratory rate checked, and you get sent to a healthcare professional that's not necessarily an MD, but it's a nurse that's qualified in doing that, or a sonogram, or a whatever it is, so that they can add, they can get you to pay for and add to your file, but they don't have to manage. They just want it to show up in your healthcare record so they get a better picture of your health.
Yeah, and people who give bad advice in the end from the anonymous will be weaned out anyway. That's
exactly right. And the people that are, there's different ethos around the medical industry. Some people are very pro-science, other people are more clinicians. And you're finding that people are moving more towards evidence-based medicine anyways, and a lot of the better medical schools are teaching evidence-based medicine. This will meet that criteria. This will be a storage repository that meets the evidence care physician's criteria for his type of analysis of the patient. And in those systems nowadays, they're saying, if this is a complicated healthcare issue, I'm going to need more than a GP. I need the GP in the room, the oncologist in the room, the plastic surgeon in the room, a nutritionist in the room.
A video meeting with a bunch of people.
Exactly. You have your own little healthcare consortium that's tagged to your group, and this group can each be a member of the Ethereum family.
Yeah.
All understanding when they walk in what their risk assessment is with the patient, because they've reviewed this before they've agreed to the contract.
Yeah.
And then once they've agreed to the contract, they can give recommendations that may be given directly to another surgeon or surgical group that also meets the criteria within our environment.
Yeah.
So that people can then be not only assessed, but referred to other specialists that may or may not be in the system, but create a mechanism that allows you to not only understand your health, but how much you want to, how quickly, or how to shorten the time from diagnoses to whatever the procedure that needs, surgical procedure.
So going to so many different appointments over 2 weeks, or waiting 3 months for a specialist.
Well, now you're in an environment that says these guys this is what
globally,
these are what their wait times are.
Yeah.
These guys have this many procedures going on. So now you can say, well, I've never been to France, but there's a doctor that can meet this thing, and I can get to France and have that happen to him. I may be in Canada, and there's a huge long line to get MRIs done. If I'm willing to pay the money in cash, who's available? I want to go to this clinic in New York and pay for an MRI. I'm in California, I'm in some Midwestern state, but I've been diagnosed with a chronic pain disorder where I need medical marijuana. What dispensaries are available in what states, how close to me?
I think this is what's also going to be really important is this metadata, because this will spawn out lots of different studies or lots of different good data about the populations around the world on what are the critical issues.
And that's what's great about the 23andMe.
It's a reporting issue, which is what Ethereum's about, reporting information, reporting the truth to the public, so then new systems can be created to improve all the situations.
Well, you're getting immediate data as to what's effective. You're weeding out all the stuff that may be overly costly, time inefficient, travel inefficient, and you're saying this is solving these people's problems. Subjectively, obviously, but they're getting, they're feeling better about their health, they're able to do the things that they want to do in their life.